Hello? Hey, it's been a few months. The last video kind of threw me for a loop. You know, I usually make videos that 10 people watch, and then a lot more than 10 people watched it, and it was a little weird. And then I got really busy, and I was thinking about why I make videos and what I want to do, and the comments on the videos were kind of wild too. And then like 5 months passed. I wasn't really planning on taking that long of a break. I had some ideas for videos that all sort of fell through, and the pressure was starting to like mount. I wanted the next video to be a good one, because in retrospect, I don't really like the last one that much. And so I've decided I'm just gonna talk about some cool things I like saw or read since I uploaded the last video. And that's gonna be the video, that's it. No thesis or plan or idea. I read Hellsing. It's interesting. It's so funny to see like someone who was stuck making arrow work but clearly had bigger aspirations. And then when they get the chance to do something they want, it's just an excuse to like draw guns and military stuff and cool character designs. And that's not like to harp on it or anything really. You could totally make the case that it's all intentionally pulp. And I think that's at least partially true, but it's just so goofy. I think Kota Hirano has such a fun eye for characters that explore the boundaries of gender. It's cool. It's a cool series. I also like the author's notes in the margins where Hirano is just begging for an assistant. I saw Kobayashi's I Will Buy You, and it might be a new favorite. It's not really even a new observation, but Kobayashi wields his worldview so easily, and it's just as true here. But in this one especially, the way the movie utilizes each setting and gets as much out of it as possible really caught my attention. The quarry shot is probably my favorite example of this in practice. But yeah, maybe the best movie ever about the professional sports industry. I could just say that, it's probably true. I also saw Rockers for the first time, and it's hard to imagine a more kind of complete and cut off time capsule. Every note you read about the production of this thing is like its own set of circumstances that just aren't really possible today. It's just an easy recommend, you know? I don't really play as many games as I mean to play. I'm really bad at sticking with things and getting them done. But Hilltop's translation of Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 released, and that's a game I've dreamed about playing for as long as I can remember, you know? And to be honest, it took longer than I planned. I would get busy or something else would come up, but man, I wasn't really prepared for how eloquent and well implemented the storytelling would be in this. I didn't expect to care about the characters as much as I did, especially Grandpa and Shizue, who I could probably talk about for hours. There's so much going on, especially with how it's kind of marketed as this window to the past for a generation of adults. And that feels even more relevant today with how much return-type conservative rhetoric is somehow appealing to a lot of people. And instead of coming off as self-indulgent or recursive in some way, it takes those feelings of nostalgia and it actually takes them somewhere. It balances the ideas that maybe in some ways things were simpler, and you could argue even that some things have changed for the worse, but there's no way you can take the world you experienced as your younger self as face value. The simple times were not that simple. I love Iron Chef. I watch Iron Chef multiple times a week, and that's because Iron Chef is just so fucking sick. Everybody in the show is just so effortlessly charismatic. Each chef is fun to see, except Kobe. And Kaga and all of the commentators are also impactful. Even the silly English dub, which would be so grating if done wrong, it's fun to hear though. And I think why I like it so much is even when things aren't crazy or no one's saying anything wild, it's just good. Like everyone is clearly talented and you get to see them cook. That's already interesting by its own merit. And then the wild shit comes on and it really entertains. Like, hello?
And I don't want to get into this one too much, but recently after he was scheduled for this program, there's been some strife at home, resulting in the wife leaving, taking the kids with her to her parents' house.
Whoa.
All right, well, that's all I'm going to say about that one. But, I mean, he really is on his own today.
Honestly, I'm not sure what I'm going to do once I'm done watching it with my friends.
車内でリクライニングシートを倒すときは必ず一言後ろの人に声をかけてください。そういった小さな思いやりが旅を楽しいものにしてくれます。そう、やっぱり旅は楽しくなくちゃいけません。旅は。
So this one kind of snuck up on me. I randomly came across it because I was so into Kaga's performance on Iron Chef. So I was looking into him, and he's like a deeply serious stage actor who kind of did some TV and movies here and there. And you know, he was in Iron Chef. He was also in the show called
Furuhata Ninzaburo.
And that was created by the writer and director of Welcome Back, Mr. McDonald. And it got compared a lot to Columbo. And so I throw it on after an Iron Chef episode. I watch Iron Chef with a group of friends. And it's pretty good. You know, Kaga's obviously great. That's why we're here. But Tamura as Furuhata is great too, and I like some of the filmmaking decisions they're making. Like, since the episode's all on a train, they shot it with a handy cam to help simulate the shakiness. It looks good, it's fun. And then
こういうこともあります。
this happens every episode, and it's breathtaking every time. They have so much fun and make so many creative decisions that I kind of love. Specifically, there are 4 episodes in the first season directed by Mamoru Hoshi, and they're easily my favorite so far. Even though I'm not done watching the series yet, I really hope they keep this creative streak up through the series because it's really great so far. I'll be real, I thought maybe that Witch Hunter Robin would be video material when I started watching it. Kind of reminded me of Ako no Hana in the way that, depending on who you're talking to, it's either very well known or not something they've heard of. And even still, you don't really hear a lot of people talk about it. And now I know why, but that's because it's good. It's good. To be clear, I liked it. It was fun and silly, and the setting is sort of interesting. It's just, and this is what I really struggled with, it feels like it's not really saying anything in a lot of different ways. And you know, not every piece of art has to make some grand statement or something or other, but so much of the premise and buildup is pointing in a direction. It's about police, and it's about who's allowed to exist in legal systems, and it's about the privatization of public properties. And so there's this episode, spoilers for the series by the way, where Robin and the witch hunters have to hunt a child witch. And you know, Robin's conflicted because she's only 15, and it feels weird to send a young kid off to the factory like that, and it's so close. It's almost there. You can practically taste it. And then they reveal the kid is actually super evil, and so the indefinite imprisonment of children is justified. Oops. Witch Hunter Robin pulls a move like this multiple times where it's not ignorant of what it's doing. It's like, hey, we're coming to some conclusions about like how the witch hunters are operated, and that even might reflect on the real world. And then there will be some wild justification for why it's actually okay. Robin's like, wow, Amon, I can't believe you hunted your own last partner. The witch hunters are really willing to turn on their own because we're just witches with a license to live, and they can take that away at any point. And you're not only complicit in that, but you pulled the trigger yourself. And Amon's like, oh no, I was okay with hunting my partner because she stole secrets. She was gonna sell that information for her own personal gain. And then everyone's like, okay, that's fine. Again, I liked it. It's just, I got frustrated because the way the story is, there's so little to say. I really did like the way they used CG in this, actually. They mostly used it for background work. And so some of the environments have this kind of like mist adventure game quality to them. Also, the Foley in the show is like really weird. I've been on a bit of an Obayashi kick. I'd seen House and some of his later stuff, but I knew I was missing a lot and I wanted to fix that. His motorbike Her Island is incredible. I'm sure most people know this, just an expertly crafted romance. It's fun to see Obayashi kind of play with some ideas that aren't what you typically see from him. I was so used to the kind of world peace type themes that it was fun to just see something a little new from him. Although if anyone's justified in repeating this kind of message of optimism and world peace, it's Obayashi. Also, Riki Takeuchi is unrecognizable in this. I had no idea he was such a pretty boy. I'm more familiar with his older look. I didn't even recognize him. School in the Crosshairs is much more in the alley I was talking about earlier. Space vampire infiltrates a crammed school and uses it to indoctrinate children into a fascist ideology. Some really incredible sequences in this one, especially the final confrontation. Obayashi is a madman, and the reason he edits his own pictures is because no one is willing to do it like he can.
I heard her talking on the phone about Yoi Okusan ni narimasu. It's true, isn't it, Miss Midori?
That's terrific, Miss Midori. Congratulations.
So I had no idea this was a movie he did, but I knew I had to see it. Nobuhiko Obayashi's The Drifting Classroom adaptation. He had a studio budget like I've never seen before from him, and he stretched that thing out. Puppets, international cast, sand, and I'll be honest, I haven't stopped thinking about it since I watched it. I read Drifting Classroom pretty recently, so maybe I don't view it as sacred as others might, but Obayashi bravely just changes and throws out ideas he doesn't want to deal with. Teachers are nice actually, and kids love to sing and play together, and they kept the part where Sho can talk to his mom with his mind because that part's really good. And then they had like a funny little bug puppet that dances and pees clean drinking water. There's a lot that really struck me, but I really found how Obayashi rewrote the ending kind of interesting. To spoil a movie from the 80s and a comic from the 70s, basically Sho and all the other kids are stuck. There's no hope to return to the past. The adults of their time led the world to an ecological disaster and no one survived, except Sho's mother and some others who promised to create a bright future for the kids and invent space technology in the gap between where the kids were from and where they end up. You know, it's never too late to create a better world for the future generations or something. Though in the movie there is no spaceship, because Sho and all his classmates take a look at the desolate wasteland and say, you know what, we'll be okay, we can make peace with the giant bugs and find a way to live happily. And this kind of tracks with Obayashi. Again, he's thinking about the possibility of peace, and the future generations of people are usually part of that equation for him. But I wonder why he made that decision to change the ending. In a lot of ways it's pretty minor, but it totally cuts the adults out of the equation. Maybe he thinks kids shouldn't rely on the past generation to fix their mistakes. I don't know. Yo, but watch this kid get obliterated by the time rip though.